phase of then and now, I want to go back to my reminiscences of the 1930s and what you see in the picture right now. The first shop was Bromley the Baker's, and it had been a bakery since the late 1800s and serving the village. And it had competition in the 1930s from Deadman's, the bakers, up at Carmonta Bakery in Cookham. And Ken Deadman used to come down and serve customers in the village here with his jowet. He had a jowet van, and he would deliver his bread. We used to call him the Midnight Baker because that's when he used to arrive. Right, next door, of course, was the Bell and Dragon, and fascia-wise, it hasn't changed very much. It has expanded to the rear since the early days, of course. And the back in the 19 late well 1990s, early 1920s, it was operated by a Colonel Cattell who sold up and actually moved to Beaconsfield. Now, right next door, of course, was Pryce Jones. Yes, the chemist. And dear old Pryce Jones, a fiery redhead with a red beard. But he was a magician. Oh, in more ways than one. He, if you had a cold or a tickly sore throat or so on, no, you didn't go to the doctor, you went to Pryce Jones. And he would come up with a concoction of either Ipecac and Morph, which I don't think is very available today, or the old-fashioned cheese linctus. I remember I liked Ipecac and Morph if I had a sore throat because it had a licorice taste to it. He was also quite a rare chap in swimming. He'd go winter and summer down to Ordney Pool for a morning dip. And with him would go the assistant grocer, Dennis Lacey. His father was Mont Lacey, who was the assistant manager at Budgeon's across the road. Dennis, of course, was quite famous as a long distance swimmer and annually competed in the Bolter's Lock to Bray Lock annual swim. So I think I've covered that part in the 1930s. I hope you enjoyed it. We will now go on to the present day. Up in the present day now, and of course, the first shop, which was Bromley the Baker's, has now long gone and is now taken over by Seconds Out. Seconds Out. That reminds me of a boxing match. Referee used to shout, "Seconds out," before the next round. Though, fascia-wise, they've maintained the shop front to look as it did when Bromley the Baker was in residence there. The hotel, Bell and the Dragon, has stayed fairly well the same. I can't see if there's any flower tubs there at all in front because it's blocked up with cars. Back in the 1930s, would have been blocked up with bicycles. Then, of course, we go on to the old chemist shop, which since it ceased to be a chemist shop, it has had various sort of entrepreneurial things, taking care. From what I can see, it has changed, and it's no longer a shop now. I believe it's just part of the residence. But I can remember some wonderful stories, of course, as I mentioned before, with dear old Pryce Jones. Yes, he was quite the character. And I must tell you one story. He lived in the little room above the shop, and he would lower a pail on a rope or a string, and the milkman would come along and put his milk bottle in the pail, and Pryce Jones used to haul it up to the window and take it out. The same would happen with his newspaper. The boy would come along, put the newspaper in the bucket, and he would haul it up. One day, a group of boys decided to play a joke on him. And what did they do? They wrapped a local roach that they'd found on the riverbank up and in the newspaper. So he got a fish. Oh, they thought they'd got one back on Pryce Jones, but I'm quite sure he got his own back too when it came to thinking about it. So there we are. That's my then and now for now on this particular part of the village.